Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Preacher. So in this episode of Preacher, we pick up like right where the last episode ended with the whole Eugene situation. Now, what it's astounding to me, I was like, okay, I'm watching the beginning. I was like, okay, Jesse, what are you going to do? And what does Jesse do? Nothing. He acts like he just, for a second, you see a little remorse in his face. It quickly disappears and he does a sermon. Granted, though, it does seem that Jesse didn't use his powers like he was planning to, because he told them just simply to serve God, but he didn't use Genesis to do it. So it does seem like he's a little reluctant about what happened, but not reluctant enough to actually do anything about it. Granted, I guess in his mind, he's still adamant being like, oh, it's God's will, because he explains this whole thing to Cassie, because Cassie actually saw him, which I like that. Because Cassie was like, I'm not trying to judge you, man. I just want to know, like, what are you going to do about it? Which, granted, it turned into him kind of judging Jesse, because he's like, you banished an innocent kid to hell. He's like, what are you going to do about it? He's like, I'm not going to do anything about it. He's like, basically saying what I've said this entire time. It's like, Genesis is messing with your mind, dude. We got to give it to those angel blokes. And Jesse kind of brings up what Eugene is, which we finally get to hear that side of the story about like what happened between him and Tracy. My understanding was, I just assumed it was going to be like a car accident or something. Like, it was much worse than that. Essentially, Eugene asked Tracy out. She rejected him. He blew part of her head off with a shotgun and then tried to kill himself. That's what happened. So knowing that now, honestly, I get why Tracy's mom hates him so much, kind of why everyone in the town hates him so much, why even Eugene hates himself so much, because he does reflect upon it and realize what kind of a messed up thing he did, because that's why he was so adamant about last episode. Like, it gives you more perspective on Eugene, why he didn't want that easy forgiveness. He's like, I ruined Tracy's life, I ruined her family's life. It's like, this, like what my face looks like, this is only part of my punishment. Like, I deserve to be hated for what I did. So, he does regret what he did. It's not like he's completely, like, oh, whatever about it. The same way Jesse is about sending him to hell. But Jesse says that, but you see it, you can still see it, that he regrets it, because he's not like fooling himself the entire episode. It's like he's playing it off, trying to be like, oh, everything's fine, which he does it to a good job. I mean, to a certain degree. It makes him look much more of an asshole, because he's trying to like justify everything, like, oh no, it's God's will and everything, which Cassidy, being very against this, like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, God's will, because he's very adamant about like saying, oh, that God's got a plan. He's like, screw that. I guess in his 119 years, because we don't really know what he's really gone throughout his life. We've never really seen a reflection of like, oh, what has Cassidy been through? They kind of make him the way he is. And he's being what he is, and having gone through everything he's probably going through in his long life. It's probably understandable why he's like, yeah, God doesn't have a plan. Bad shit just happens for no good reason. He doesn't have a plan. He's not pointing us in the right direction. We're just kind of lost little lambs going about our lives, essentially. Obviously, he didn't say that, but that's my way of interpreting it. And Cassidy finally shows Jesse what he is, taking his shirt off and just burning in the sun. It's like, we knew he burned, but it was just like his skin was boiling and everything. It just lit on fire. Not turning to dust or anything, just burning straight out. And we didn't see it, but we can only assume Jesse put him out. But that was as far as we went with that. Because the fact of the matter is, Tulip had brought that up. The fact is, oh, like, you and Jesse are so buddy-buddy, but you really don't know each other that well. The fact of the matter is, you haven't even told him what you are. I mean, like, Cassie tried to play it off like, oh, of course he knows what I am. I've told him like 9 times. I was like, yeah, he's told him once. And then I was like, oh yeah, right. Jesse was like half drunk when he told him that. So, he kind of nonchalantly threw it in the conversation, like jokingly. So, but even then, Jesse didn't believe him. So I was like, I don't know. In some way, I guess Cassie was reluctant to tell him, because he didn't, know how Jesse react. That's why he didn't tell him, because Tulip also brought that up too. You're reluctant because you don't know how he'd react. And it's like, I'm surprised he acted the way he did. He was like upset. Like, we didn't really see Cassidy after that, but I can only assume he cast Cassidy aside, because he's basically kind of like, oh, you're an abomination or something. I don't know, because it's a very interesting thing. Now, is he treating Cassidy like that because he's a preacher, because he's trying to go down this path that his dad did? He's a very religious person, because it breaks it down for you and makes you wonder, is Jesse really a religious person, or is that him pushing what his dad wanted him to be like onto him, like, oh, be a good person. And in his mind, he's like, he made that promise, so he's like, I have to be a good person. That means I have to believe in God, I have to follow God. So maybe he's so adamant about that he's casting away the one person who's his close friend, because really prior to this, the only other person that really gives a real damn about Jesse other than Cassidy is Emily. She's the only other person in town that really gives a crap about him, and Tulip. They're the only people that really associate with him outside, like, as not just a preacher, but just as a person, And I don't know, it's weird that he would just cast Cassidy aside like that. He even got super pissed. He's like, Tulip, like, you knew what he was, and she basically called him an asshole for treating Cassidy that way. It's just like, oh, you just cast people aside. And speaking of, like, quickly get on that, the fact is we find out a little bit more about his and Tulip's relationship. They go back a very long way. I thought so. I thought that was the little girl that was with him when that time his dad, like, basically beat him with a belt for smoking. I thought the little girl that was there was Tulip, because Tulip is supposed to be kind of representing, like, the bad influence in his life. But they basically stuck together. There's even that whole altercation where they basically beat up some kids. Like, 3 kids got sent to the hospital. One was missing a nipple, and he's like, wait, what? His dad was like, wait, what? And you see the blood on Tulip's mouth, and be like, yeah, you didn't mean to bite off his nipple, right? Tulip, you were just trying to bite his shirt. And she was kind of like, yeah, sure, if that's what you think, Jesse, kind of thing. She spent time living with them, and it seemed all right, but then his dad called child services, and she got taken away because her mom was in jail, her uncle was being the drunk he is, which I'm going to get to that in a second. But Jesse hates his dad for that, because him and Tulip were super tight, so took away the one person that he cares about a lot, and it's just like, screw you, Dad. Basically his dad was saying it's because of who she is. She's an O'Hare. Basically they bring nothing but trouble, so I guess her family has a long standing of being trouble, and just Jesse hates him, even pray to God that his dad would die and go to hell. And subsequently, we saw more of, like, the situation when his dad died. We still haven't gotten a clear picture of the person who killed him. We did see we did see a tattoo from the person, but we still don't have a clear picture of who it was specifically that killed him. But because Jesse, bringing all that up right now is because Jesse kind of threw that in her face, being like, "Oh, you're an O'Hare." Basically, like, who are you to kind of judge me, condemn me for my actions? You're a fucking O'Hare. That's pretty bad enough on its own. It's like, why are you even here, Tulip? Because Tulip's here for him, but he's too, blind to realize it. She's like, you're right. That's the same question I'm asking myself. Like, why am I here for you? Because you're not the same man I love, And speaking of, we did see her kind of, like, looking after her uncle again this episode. Basically, he's passed out in the front drunk. Some kids stole his pants. But everyone around him is looking like passerbyers, as well as neighbors are just, like, peering at them, kind of giving the stink eye. So it's like, I guess they're very frowned upon. It makes you wonder why her uncle is a drunk he is. Like, what's so bad about her family? Is it just specifically her uncle they were staring at her like that for? Or was it because they know, like, because of that family in general? It's like they're quote unquote cursed or something. I don't know. But, like, he's legitimately pushing everyone away in this episode. And you see that with Tulip, you see that with Cassidy. You even see it with Emily, because Emily was like, when you first came to town, Jesse, it looked like she was about to confess her feelings for him, but she just, like, I believed in you immediately. And he was like, he's like, basically, that's fucking stupid of you. Just go home, Emily. It's like, it's stupid of you to believe in me, because I'm not because he's self-deprecating, because he's just so in his head about everything, the whole Eugene thing, what happened with Cassidy. It's just, he's so pissed at himself. He's kind of lashing out at people. It's because of what he did. He feels extremely bad about what he did, especially because we see it in the episode. He's literally pulling up the floorboard of the church, digging down, like, come back. He's using Genesis to say come back. So he's trying to bring Eugene back. Because I was curious about it. Like, he never actually tried. I'm like, if he actually just said, Eugene, come back, would it work? I mean, maybe he can't because Eugene isn't physically there to hear it, so maybe it doesn't work like that. I don't know. It's like, but the fact of the matter is, he didn't try until the end of the episode. It did finally come back to him, because it's like, I guess he's finally starting to realize, that he isn't, he started off with the best of intentions. He's trying to be the good guy that his dad taught him to be. And I guess thinking about that, reflecting on that is what pushed him to be like, no, I got to do this. I got to get back Eugene, especially after he lied to his dad and like, oh, I haven't seen Eugene, which I'm sure his dad feels bad about it because it's like, oh, Eugene ran away. Because let's not forget what his dad said to him. It's like, maybe you should just go ahead and finish it off. That was kind of the last interaction we saw between him and his dad. Granted, they've probably had conversations since then, but it makes you wonder, is that in the back of his dad's head? Because his dad, like show-wise, probably like, one of those things where it's like, oh, it happened, but we didn't really get to see it. His dad never actually apologized that we know of to him about what he said. So, I'm thinking on some level his dad's probably blaming himself for it. But he's adamant, just been like, oh, come back. So, now, that's that. I want to talk quickly about, I was under the understanding, I could be completely wrong about this, because I don't, like, this is just from what I've heard, I don't know the full extent of what Jesse's powers are capable of. I mean, granted, to a certain degree, we saw that. Because they were, like, they showed the floorboard and they showed that coffin, I was thinking, like, oh, did it send him to a metaphorical hell? And I was like, no, his powers don't work like that. They work literally. They don't mean, when he tells someone, if he's not very specific, they won't take it as a metaphor. They'll take it as literally. So he did literally go to hell, especially because we know heaven exists. We know hell exists. But now what I was getting at, fact is, I don't know the full extent of his powers. Now, we got him talking to Odin. Odin brought up the fact is, okay, here's a sign over your church in your dad's land. He's like, wait, what? He's like, you said you were going to serve God, that, you left here as a Christian. And basically Odin was like, no, I didn't. And he's like, everyone in the church saw you. He's like, well, you saw wrong. So, which makes me think, is he still under the influence of what Jesse said, but it's being skewed a little bit because we already saw that he killed people because his mind got skewed by what happened, or is that something else? Like, because I'm thinking, I thought there was no limits to it, but maybe there is a time frame. Like after a while, maybe what Jesse said does wear off. I thought it didn't. Maybe it does. Maybe when Odin killed those company people, where he basically, the ones he made it look like an accident last episode in a car or whatever, maybe that was actually him coming back to his senses, being like, screw this, pow, 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 pow. Or maybe that was from Jesse's power. Or maybe, like I said, maybe Jesse's power is still active. Or maybe it's not, and because of that, his memory's wiped. I don't know. Because of the way Odin's acting, especially at the end of the episode, he's got he's got a bulldozer. He's got his men there. They're armed to the arm with guns. We even see Donnie walking forward with his broken arm. We do see that nervous look in his eye because you can tell he's a little reluctant to confront Jesse, knowing what Jesse's capable of. So that got me thinking, is like, if there's a limit to that, doesn't that also mean there's a limit to Eugene being hell? Because I am very curious, because Eugene is actually, from what I can tell, is a pretty major character in the series. It's not just he's a side character. It seems like he's a major character. So it's like, I think I brought this up last time, but what's going to happen to him when he comes back? Like, will he even be the same boy he was? Will he be someone else or something else entirely different? I don't know. But it's like, if Jesse's power does have a limit, then wouldn't that mean eventually Eugene would naturally pop back here on Earth? I don't know. I could be completely wrong about that. Just so much good stuff went down in this episode. I'm very curious to see where everything goes. We've seen how, I'm very curious, will Jesse and Cassidy come back after this? Because they aren't necessarily best friends as Cassidy would think about it. But I guess it's because in Cassidy's mind, it's like, yeah, we're close because we talk all the time. It's because we confide in each other. But I guess it's because Cassidy's probably never really had many friends over the years. He's always had to be on the move, especially considering the fact is he's being hunted down by religious fanatics who want him dead because he's an abomination. I mean, I guess, it's kind of interesting that Jesse would bring that up, like, kind of treat him like one. It's like, I'm sure people find out what you're capable of, you'd be kind of considered an abomination. Cassidy did try and tell that to Tulip earlier, but she was kind of not really listening to him. It was just like, oh yeah, he could tell people what to do. Well, he couldn't tell me what to do. So I'm very interested to see where everything goes next episode. I mean, the fact of the matter is Jesse's kind of on his own. He's trying to get Eugene back. He's pushed away everyone that cares about him. So it also makes you wonder, well, how will things happen between Tulip and Cassidy now that everything's happened out? Now that she sees Jesse's being the way he is now, will she kind of be there for Cassidy? Because Cassidy was just like, I didn't tell Jesse about the fact is that we made love. And it's just like, and it's sad because she was scoffing at him. She almost laughed. She's like, made love? Really? She's basically like, it was just sex. We didn't make love. It wasn't anything romantic like that. The only person I'll probably make love to is Jesse. So, but they did have that little pack of like till the end. So I'm very curious to see more about how Tulip found her way back into Jesse's life, or Jesse found his way back into her life, how they got to where they were with the whole Carlos situation, even the Carlos situation itself, because she's yet to actually do anything about it, because she wants to get Jesse back on her side first and then do that. But now there's no telling, because like, he's pushed her away before, but now he's really pushed her away, because now he's treating her as just like, oh, you're an O'Hare, so why are you even here? It's because she actually loves you, you idiot. Same thing for Emily, but neither one of them is very upfront about how they really feel towards him. But considering the way he's been acting lately, it's kind of hard. Like even Cassidy himself said it himself. He's like, Jesse, down at his heart and core, he's trying to be he's a good bloke. At the very least, he is trying to be a good person. But like I said, that power, like being able to make people do whatever you want, that's enough to sway you. But like I said, there was that little meeting he had after, Cassidy told Jesse that, like, oh, I know what you did with the whole Eugene thing. When he was talking to those people, I don't think he was using his powers on them. Maybe he did. I don't know. But it did seem like he wasn't using his powers as much this episode when he easily could have been. So I don't know. With everything standing, everything is as it's standing, I'm very curious to know where everything goes. A side note, like kind of an interesting thing with Emily, like I'm gonna kind of just show how much she does care about. She was like, because Jesse was like, oh, I haven't seen Eugene. The sheriff was about to walk away, but she's like, no, that's not true. Remember, you saw him. You told me to tell him to go away, but I sent him in anyway. But then she's like, oh yeah, but then he left. I saw him leave. I don't know where he went after that. So she did cover for him, knowingly cover for him. She knows Jesse's hiding stuff and that she doesn't know everything, but she still wants to help him because she does care about him. So I don't know. Like I said, hopefully Jesse will get the opportunity to remedy everything. I tried to avoid seeing too much of next week's episode. I can't always help but see like a second or two of it. I did see that Fleur and DeBlanc show up. Granted, they're still told that they can't be near Jesse because of the power. So I'm curious about where that's going to go. Like, will Jesse be willing to give up Genesis now? Or will it be impossible? Maybe it's taken so far, like, because they tried before, but it wouldn't come out. Maybe Genesis has taken root in Jesse and won't come out the normal way. They will probably have to slice him up with a chainsaw, plan B, like they were trying to before. Maybe this time Jesse will be like, no, I need to get this thing out of me. It's ruining everything. It's destroying everything. Get it out of me. And maybe they might be able to successfully get it out at one point, but it didn't make you wonder, what if a situation comes up and Jesse's like, nope, I need it back. Or like I said before, maybe they just won't be able to get it out. So very interested to see where that goes. But that was as much as like the next episode I saw. I can't wait to see where it goes down, especially considering, like I said, Odin and his men are closing in. Maybe we'll get to see like, just what Jesse's power is capable. Because let's not forget that megaphone, I think, is still attached to the church. So if the situation called for it, he could easily run back in and use his power. I don't know. Especially, Donnie. Like I said, Donnie's going to be aware. He's like, I know what Jesse can do. Maybe we should get the hell out of here type of thing. So many questions. Love the episode. Cannot wait to see more. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.